A top member of the jihadist group that the US government and NATO armed and funded in the overthrow of Colonel Gaddafi back in 2011 is now leading ISIS forces in Libya. Once again, the growth of ISIS can be traced directly back to our government's insane policy of aiding terrorists who went on to join ISIS after the destabilization of the secular governments in Libya and Syria. Abdel Hakim Belhaj, seen here meeting with Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham, was the emir of the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, LIFG, an organization affiliated with Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, which killed US troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. In 2011, I wrote a series of articles pointing out that the US and Britain were directly supporting jihadists like Belhaj in an area in Libya which West Point warned was the world capital for Al-Qaeda suicide bomber recruitment. We were supporting these people to overthrow Gaddafi when Tripoli fell with the aid of British and American cruise missiles. These same terrorists got access to nuclear material, deadly chemicals, and 30,000 shoulder-fired rockets. After being handed power, these same terrorists flew the Al-Qaeda flag over courthouses in Benghazi, the same flag now being flown by ISIS militants. They imposed Sharia law, while transforming Libya from a relatively prosperous and thriving nation into a brutal hellhole run by tribal warlords and jihadists. And our governments helped them do it. Some of these same terrorists were then airlifted into Syria by our allies to join the ranks of jihadist rebels in the effort to topple the Assad government, which of course led to the birth of ISIS in the region. And even as the US continues to support so-called moderate rebels in Syria, thousands of them are defecting to the Islamic State. The Citizens Committee on Benghazi report concluded that the United States was involved in, quote, knowingly facilitating the provision of weapons to known Al-Qaeda militias and figures, including Belhaj, and that if the US, quote, hadn't been helping to arm Al-Qaeda militias throughout Libya, the attack on the US consulate wouldn't have occurred a year later. The White House armed, funded, militarily aided, and gave political office to the guy now leading ISIS terrorists in Libya. So we keep hearing this line in the media over and over again. How do we stop ISIS? Do we need to send in ground troops? How about this? How about you stop arming and funding fucking bloodthirsty terrorists in the first place? How's that for a novel idea? How about you stop destabilizing secular governments and replacing them with gangs of jihadist lunatics? How about we find out why the hell ISIS keeps receiving these accidental airdrops of weapons caches from British and American planes? ISIS is now threatening to send 500,000 immigrants from Libya to cause chaos on the streets of Europe. The Islamic State continues to butcher Christians and Muslims across the region. And all because our governments supported these subhuman scumbags from the very beginning.